Listen, Pretzel, you better show up on time. Otherwise, that's a real dough breaker for me. Canceling plans. I don't really have that many dough breakers. It's really about just really getting to know somebody. Hello, I'm Hannah Hart, and this is Edible History. Today, we're going to be unknotting the origins of the pretzel. Personally, I love pretzels. I can't get enough of them. I love the salt, I love the shape, I love the design. They're such an aesthetically pleasing baked good. I'm not talking to you, pretzel rods. I mean, like, loosen up, you nerds. But where do the pretzels come from? Have they always been as naughty as they appear? Today we'll be talking about all this and more with pretzel expert William Woys Weaver. I love everything about pretzels, but I know nothing about them. What can you tell me about the origins of what we know to be a pretzel today?
The pretzel is actually pre-Christian origin. Pretzels were made all over Celtic Europe. They were often made with wheat and woven into that particular shape, which is known as a harvest knot. The Germans assimilated this custom from the Celtic peoples who lived there. It was connected with human sacrifice in the pagan period. And so the pretzel is a symbolic noose.
How did this seemingly dark baked good come into popularity today?
There are a lot of strange stories associated with the pretzel. Every baker had to learn to make pretzels because this was a symbol of the baking trade. So it was a trade secret. You had to get it from a bakery. The pretzel bakers decided that they were going to clean up the pretzel's image, and they made up this strange story about how the pretzel was invented by a monk. They tried to give it a churchy, if you will, cleaned up image.
Talking about pretzels is making me pretty hungry. Can you tell me a little bit about the recipe that we'll be making today?
You're going to be making the Munich lye pretzel. But in the old days, you had a guy who was really well built, and he beat the crap out of that dough, and this broke down the gluten and made the dough very spongy. Then you start to tie it into your pretzel shape. So there's a real art to making the pretzel perfect.
I've got a tall order ahead of me, but I think I'm ready to do it. So today we'll be making the Münchner Laugenbrezel, which means Munich lye pretzel. This recipe comes from a pretzel cookbook published in 1922, and it's pretty simple. We're just gonna be using flour, yeast, water, and a lot of lye. First we add fresh yeast and mix it with a little warm water. Now it's likely that the early bakers used a yeast made from beer. We're using a yeast made from wherever this came from. Okay, and then we're just gonna mix it until it dissolves. Smell that activation. Now we'll be adding our spelt flour. This recipe's pretty easy. You could say it's spelt out for me. Okay, we're gonna combine our spelt with our yeast. Now you'll notice that we're not adding any salt to this initial dough. That's because we don't want the salt to kill the yeast. We want this yeast to thrive. And now to the kneading. Feels so warm, satisfying. Now for you most avid Edible History fans, you'll know this isn't my first dough, so I don't really know if we need any more jokes about it. Now that we're done kneading, we are going to set our dough aside and take it out when it's ripe. Well, that just means to let it rise. May she rise! You guys wanna join my cool pretzel cult? That's what we're all about. And we're back! All right, let's take a look. Oh, beautiful. Now that our yeast has done its job, it's time to add the salt for flavor. So we're gonna be making a little bit of a salt-water mixture over here to add it back into the dough. I mean, so far this recipe seems pretty spot on, you know? The way they made pretzels back then seems a lot like how we make pretzels today. Ah, tastes like tears. Just how the pagan gods like it. Now we add our water to our dough. Let's give it a little love. It feels a little bit like making slime. It's kind of like the salt water is eating the dough, but maybe we'll hit a turning point. The salt water appears to have turned our dough into clay-like texture. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get a pretzel out of this, so let's try again with less salt water. Wow. Beautiful. So now we're gonna be using substantially less water with the same amount of salt to flavor our bread. Now this is much, much more like it. Okay, so our salt is incorporated, but this dough still isn't the easiest to work with, so it's time to bring in the dough breaker. do my own stunts. Okay, now this is where the recipe starts to take some twists and turns by making twists and turns. Our next step is to take a little chunk of our pretzel dough and we're gonna be rolling it into our pretzel shape. So what we're doing here is we're leaving a little bit of thickness in the center while rolling out the ends of our dough. If it gets a little thick, you can roll out the center just a little bit, but you really wanna make sure that your ends are longer and thinner than your center bit. And then we make a little bit of a U shape. We twist, then we twist again, and then we put it into a pretzel. Hooray! That, my friends, is a harvest knot. All right, perfect. So we're gonna make some more, set them aside to let them rise for just a little bit, and then we get to the boiling and the baking. Oh, for that, I'm gonna need some safety gear. Hello. Up next, we'll be working with a caustic chemical known as lye. Now, really, do not try this at home. It is very dangerous. We have taken extra safety precautions. If you really want to do it, you could use an alternative of baking soda, and that's all I have to say about that because it's really hot inside this mask, so let's get started. Taking cold water and using a ratio of 1 to 20, we are ready to add our lye. The lye serves a purpose of acting as a mold deterrent so that you could store the pretzels for longer. Now that we've added our lye, we're gonna bring it to a boil and then start adding our pretzels. We're going to boil our pretzels for 30 seconds. We're just gonna scoop them up and give them a quick dip. This is what bakers call spray tanning. The skin's not gonna look darker now, but the reaction will be completed in the oven. And that's that! Oh man, I'm not gonna lie, you guys, this has been stressful. And last but not least, we're gonna sprinkle them with salt. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now we take our pretzels off to bake, and after baking, they'll be safe for human consumption. So we've finished baking our pretzels in a well-ventilated oven. I mean, look at how good these look. Are they today's pretzels? No. But, you know, they got a shine to them. The salt looks like it's well-maintained. They smell like a freshly baked thing. And last but not least, the final moment. Time to taste. Okay, feels like a pretzel. Tastes like popcorn. That's very surprising. They don't have the same kind of like soft buoyancy as today's pretzels do, but I mean, if you want to preserve this thing till the fall, I can totally see how. Well, what have we learned on our pretzel journey? 1, making pretzels, super hard. And 2, they taste like popcorn. Thanks so much for watching the season finale of Edible History. What do you think? Would you eat one of these pretzels?